First Amendment of the United States Constitution protects the right to freedom of religion and freedom of expression from government interference. It was adopted into the Bill of Rights in 1791 and prohibits any laws that establish a national religion, impede on the free exercise of religion, or interfere with the right to peacefully assemble. According to Cornell Law School, the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment was written into the First Amendment, primarily authored by James Madison, and says, "Congress shall pass no law respecting an establishment of religion." These words became known as the separation of church and state argument and continue to be a topic of debate in the public school system. Education is a fundamental right and requirement in the United States of America, so it is no surprise that it has been the center of many controversies. As early as 1948, the case of McCollum versus Board of Education District 71 was ruled on. In short, the Champaign Council on Religious Education, comprising of people from various faiths, was offering religious instruction to public school students in the classrooms of the school during school hours, 1 day a week. The students were not required to participate, and the parents signed consent forms for their students to participate. McCollum, a taxpayer and parent, sued the school stating that it was a violation of the Establishment Clause. The Illinois Supreme Court upheld the program based on the optional participation and the fact that a variety of religions were being represented. They also said that the local Board of Education had the authority to establish such a program without interference. However, the case advanced to the U.S. Supreme Court in 1948. Because the disputed classes were held in a public school building during school time, the religious instruction program was deemed unconstitutional, overturning the previous ruling by the Illinois Supreme Court. The fact that the taxpayers provided funding for the building and school officials were promoting religious instruction, the program was in direct violation of the First Amendment, which, according to Encyclopedia Britannica, erected a wall between church and state, which must be kept high and impregnable. As recent as June 19, 2000, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that even at extracurricular events such as before a football game, prayer was a violation of the First Amendment's Establishment Clause. In Santa Fe Independent School District versus Doe, the school board argued that the practice was left to volunteers from the student body and therefore was a private speech, and they should be protected. However, the court disagreed, stating that because attendance at an athletic event may be tied to a grade, such as pep band, cheer squad, or concessions, that students were required to attend. The use of the school district's PA system, paid for by taxpayer money, was also ruled unconstitutional, finding that the only purpose for this policy was to endorse student-led prayer. Throughout time, the controversy of separation of church and state as part of the First Amendment to the Constitution has routinely been questioned. Prayers led by clergymen before graduation ceremonies, prior to meals at athletic banquets, and the start of many athletic events have all been practiced nationwide. Many fundamentally religious communities have pushed for these practices to continue, and as long as there isn't any protesting, they do. However, when prayer at public school events has been challenged, the United States Supreme Court has ruled against the public school district's continuation of these practices. Proponents of the prayer in the public school system, such as the Religious Action Center, have tried to help these citizens keep their value for religion as part of these public events. When communities are involved in faith as a staple of their identity, prayer is shared. For example, in Kennesaw, an active Lutheran community, prayer is commonplace. The school itself does not endorse prayer as part of the school day nor extracurricular activities. However, student athletes routinely lead others in prayer. For example, if a student leader chooses to say a prayer before the start of the athletic banquet or graduation ceremony, it has been allowed. In the locker rooms, pre-game, athletes sometimes say a prayer to encourage sportsmanship and safety for all participants. Upon conclusion of sporting events, especially in our conference, the teams, coaches, players, and any community members are welcome to join in at a student-led prayer half-court or midfield, thanking God for the opportunity to compete, do the things they love, and the continued health of all players. The push for allowing public school students to hold prayer will probably continue. Because of the vast diversity in faiths, this will also continue to be a heavily debated topic. In smaller communities where the majority of the population attends one church, this may be allowed. However, since 1948, when the First Amendment's Establishment Clause was challenged for the first time in Illinois, the United States Supreme Court has held firm in regards to the separation of church and state, disallowing prayer in schools. Regardless of whether it is student-led or not, even in these smaller, faith-based communities, all it will take is someone to question these practices and then sue on the merits of the separation of the First Amendment for the practice of student-led prayer to end, as well as according to the U.S. Supreme Court.